Look at all of you. This is amazing. Even with rain earlier in the day, you still showed up. So welcome to Fast Pitch. Our theme this year is Just Love, very much inspired by the Martin Luther King Jr. quote that power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. Just love. That's been a guiding light for us at SVP as we grow our community of people who want to create a more just and loving Los Angeles and are willing to bring all their power to make that possible. So I'm going to share with you tonight 3 ways that you can think about wielding your power to create a more just and loving LA. You're going to hear from 11 incredible presenters tonight, and you're going to be thinking, what can I do? So I want to give you 3 things to think about. The first way you can wield your power is to bear witness, to listen, to be present with what's true. I've had 2 profound experiences in the last year of bearing witness where it really struck me how important this is. The first was last summer, as my wife and I were learning about what was happening at the border, that families were being separated. We felt like there was something we had to do, but we didn't know what. So we started asking around, said, what is it that we can do? How can we help? And what we kept hearing again and again was just show up. So we got in our car, drove to Tornillo, to the border where one of the detention camps was, and we showed up for a rally. We stood out there for a couple hours, chanting, listening to speakers, and honestly wondering if it was making a difference. At some point, one of the speakers came out and told us that the people inside could hear us, and they were chanting back. And so what we realized was the power in that moment was that connection that we were making, that we were saying, we see you, and we're with you. The second experience was last year, traveling to Montgomery, Alabama with our SVP staff team, Allie and Sharon. We went to the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. This is a memorial that acknowledges the racial terror that Black people in the United States have experienced, from slavery to the Jim Crow era to present-day mass incarceration. As we were walking through the exhibits, I could feel just the nausea of being with what's true, what has been true and what is true. And as we were walking through the lynching memorial, I was reading the reasons, the excuses that were given for why people were lynched. And it was things like, he was standing around in the wrong neighborhood. And I was struck by the resonance with what we see today, with unarmed young Black men who are killed in our communities by our law enforcement, and realizing the ties from our history to present day. And that's some of the power that comes with bearing witness. When we acknowledge what's true, what has been true, and what is true, it's only then that we can move forward with a compelling vision for what's next. So I want to encourage you tonight, as you listen to these 11 pitches, to just be with what's true, to open your hearts to what you're hearing, and to acknowledge the truth that they're sharing with you. So you're already doing this first step. You're here. You showed up. So thank you for that. The second way I want to encourage you to wield your power is to speak your truth. I think back to 2008 when I was working on the campaign for same-sex marriage. And at a certain point in the campaign, we learned that the most powerful tool we had were our stories, that going out and speaking our truth was what was starting to turn the tide on this issue. So we were literally going door to door at some point in districts that had predominantly not supported same-sex marriage in the past, literally knocking on strangers' doors and telling them who we were and what our truth was. So I was on purpose knocking on doors and coming out to people again and again and again, and realizing that these were some of the most authentic experiences, authentic conversations that I had ever had about this issue. I remember one woman standing out on her doorstep. We must have stood out there for half an hour talking, and both of us crying at some point as she was sharing with me the struggle she was having in reconciling her belief in social justice and her faith, the values that she was learning and what she was hearing at church, and really struggling with how to reconcile those two things. So we were just present with each other. We sat with each other and listened to each other's truths, and we didn't solve anything in those 30 minutes, but it's a conversation that has stayed with me for years since. Now, at the same time, my friend Patrick was also out there working on the campaign for same-sex marriage. And Patrick is straight, so his truth is different than mine. He was going out and talking to people week after week after week, and what was true for him was that he wanted to be able to look his young kids in the eye someday and tell them that he was on the side of justice. That's what was true for Patrick. So each of you here tonight has a truth. Each of you has something that motivates you to be here tonight and a truth that you can share. So I want to encourage you after you leave here tonight to share that truth. Tell your story, let people know what motivates you, and share the truths that you learn here. The third thing you can do to wield your power is to think about how you can leverage your superpowers. So we all have innate abilities and skills that we bring to this work, and I want you to reflect on what those are for you. So our SVP partners do this beautifully. Our partners are a community of people, we're about 100 strong at this point, who commit their time and their money to create the LA that we believe it can be. We support emerging nonprofits in bolstering their work. I want to ask our partners who are here tonight to raise your hand. So they're all over this theater. Yeah. So I'll give you a couple examples of the ways that our partners wield their power. So I think about Carolyn Rojo, who's also one of our board members, who showed up at a city council hearing last year. She had never testified at city council before, but she was inspired because she had been coaching Vigilant Love, one of the nonprofits who went through our accelerator last year. And there was an anti-Muslim policy that was before city council, and Carolyn was motivated to stand in solidarity with our friends at Vigilant Love and testify with them. She showed up. The second thing I think of is last year, we asked a group of our nonprofits to prioritize a short list of people that if they could be connected to those people, they believed it could help accelerate their missions. So they came up with a list of 15 people, primarily from here in Los Angeles, and we brought that list to our partners. And we said, can you make these connections? Sure enough, a couple weeks later, they had made introductions to 14 out of 15 people on that list. Number 15 was Oprah. So we were feeling pretty good about 14 out of 15. But I was telling this story to a group of our partners a few months back, and sure enough, one of our partners approached us afterwards and said, hey, I think I can make the connection to Oprah. And he did. Originally, when I was thinking about this, I was going to name him, but then I realized you're all going to ask him to be introduced to Oprah. So I'll leave his name out of it. But we were blown away that our partners, just within their network, knew the people that could be partners to the nonprofits that we work with and help accelerate their work. So those are the kinds of things that we've witnessed our partners do day after day, week after week, and you all have those powers as well. So for each of us, it's different. It may be your resources, your network, your skills, just lending an ear to someone, but you know what those superpowers are. And I want to encourage you tonight, as you listen to these 11 presenters, to consider how you might support them and to consider joining our community at SVP to be in this vehicle with us to support the incredible work that's happening throughout LA. So tonight you have the opportunity to do all three of the things I mentioned. You're going to bear witness, you're going to listen to these 11 pitches and open your heart to hearing their truth. You're going to leave here and speak your truth, whether that's the truth of what you discovered tonight or what's been true in your life, where you can shine a light on what's happening, what's true. And finally, you're going to think about how you can leverage your superpowers, how you can leverage the skills, the gifts that you have to create a more loving and just LA. Sound good? Yeah? All right.